So I just wanted to say how incredibly happy I am that you have come to join us this afternoon, and how incredibly exciting it is for you to have just released your next book, and you've had such success, and so many people have looked to you for advice, and there's a plethora of information in this book as well. And tell us a little bit about this book and why you picked the topics that you did. And also, if you don't mind, take a minute and just share with us a little bit about how you designed the book and its uniqueness.
Well, my main objective was in my own evolution in the healthcare system, what got me into the natural health sciences instead of going traditionally and becoming a neurosurgeon and a medical doctor. Instead, I chose doctor of chiropractic and natural health, acupuncture, nutrition, because I realized the one thing is that the answer to be able to reverse chronic disease had to be in finding the root cause of the problem. How did we get here in the first place? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves every single day. How did I get here in the first place? And what we're finding in the new science is that our lifestyle choices is what the main reason how we got here. So in my previous book, which became an international bestseller, is called The Power of Self-Healing. I wanted to bring the contribution to the world to remind them that the body is a self-healing organism, that the body is made up of systems and organs and cells that are designed to heal themselves naturally.
That's right.
Most of us take that for granted. Most of us have been told that unless we take a pill, or unless we get an injection, our bodies don't have no chance of healing. And that's absolutely false, because the only thing that heals is the body itself. So I wanted to bring that through the power of self-healing, and I think that's why it caught on, and it became #1 in 10 countries, and it's translated in 8 languages, because people were empowered. Hey, my body can heal. But then over the last few months, I started realizing that the conversation out there is going back to the root cause. It's going back to why is it that 90% of our healthcare costs is chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, obesity, arthritis, chronic pain. And what I wanted to do with this book, Self-Health, is to bring back the empowerment back to the person, not just to recognize their bodies can heal, but what determines if my body can heal is the choices that I make every day when it comes to my health. How much time do I sleep? What kind of water do I drink in my body? How much toxins do I put in the foods that I drink, that I eat? What is it that I'm doing when it comes to my exercise, my movement? So I wanted to bring down the information that I'm giving the reader so many choices that they can take every single day that science has already proven can actually reverse disease, but more importantly, prevent it if you are proactive about it. And that's really the essence of the book, that the only way to reach our human potential is by self-health. We have to take the responsibility of the choices that we make, and all I'm asking the reader to do is to replace one bad choice with a better one. And that will ensure that tomorrow you're going to be healthier than you are today. But if you do 2 choices, even faster. If you do 3 choices, even faster. And then what happens is when you start seeing the benefits of that, you are inspired and motivated to make better choices every day because you're seeing the effects every single day.
It's an incredible synopsis of how people are wanting to be self-empowered.
Yeah.
And people do want to take health into their own hands. And it's sad in a sense, because when we think of health care, we think of a guy in a white coat who tells us what medicine or medication that we need to take to, unfortunately, to cover up the symptom. But what we're missing, and what we've been missing for all these years, is how to be empowered, so that as a people, we can have a say about what we do and the things that we are incorporating into our daily lives to prevent disease.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I was taught, certainly back in the day, was curative based.
Yeah.
Today, I think there's been a paradigm shift. I think that a lot of people now are more interested in prevention. And if prevention is here to stay, it's because we went that way, the other way to begin with. And now people are awakening. There's consciousness, the awareness of that, hey, my health is my choice.
Yeah.
So please take a second now and tell me a little bit about your journey to this to this book, because it's a process. Everyone starts with, hey, take this pill and you'll start to feel better. But we now know that sometimes taking this pill is just a cover up. And that cover up causes more problems down the road. And the entire country is in need of a simplistic concept of how to self-heal, how to create self-health. So in your professional opinion, what are the top 3 things that we can do to improve our self-health every single day?
You know, it's interesting because there's so many great things that we can do. But the new science is showing that lack of sleep has become one of the biggest reasons why people are not getting well. So we need to sleep 8 to 10 hours a day, and we need to go into a deep sleep. The number 2 is we need to change our processed foods, right? All of these preservatives that are in our foods into organic foods that are actually real, because 60% of the American diet is processed foods. That needs to change. We need to actually go to the grocery store and stay in the organic section of fruit and vegetables and begin there before you go anywhere else. And one other tip, do not go grocery shopping if you're hungry, because you're gonna crave the carbs. And the third thing I would say is you gotta move our bodies. Our bodies are meant to be moved, because when you create movement in the body, right now we have a problem called sedentary syndrome, which is the American person is either laying down or sitting most of the day. They're not moving, they're not standing. So that's creating a problem by which your cells cannot be activated. The circulation is less than what it can probably be. And that's a foundational thing for many of the chronic disease. So in a nutshell, the 3 things you can do to self-health: you want to sleep at least 8 to 10 hours of deep sleep. You want to change and replace a processed food with an organic food every single meal. And lastly, you want to move your body at least 20 to 30 minutes a day in order to be able to have the best health you can have.
That's simplistic, and it's something that's very valuable because it's applicable to all of us every single day. So tell me a little bit about foods. What are the 5 things that you can think of about foods that come to you, and to the choices that we can make, better choices that we can make when we're purchasing foods?
Well, it's interesting because one of the resources I created for the readers of this book is how to read a label. One of the biggest challenges is you gotta learn to read a label whenever you go shopping and try to look for certain things. So the first thing that I look for is you gotta avoid sugars, especially synthetic sugars. And the reason for that is because sugar has been foundational, one of the biggest causes for inflammation in the body. So that's number 1. The other one is you gotta avoid some of the oils that have been linked to not being the healthiest, where your body has a difficulty of breaking down, like canola oils and some of the oils that you can see in the label. Third, you want to read what is it that the ingredients that you're putting into your body, and try to find organic ingredients. The more organic ingredients that you can put into your body, the better that it is. Fourth, get some supplementation. Right now, it's obvious that our foods are depleted of nutrients. The body, the cells need nutrients, so make sure that you're stopping into the supplement area and trying to find the best supplements you can find. Make sure that they are US made as possible, because the restrictions in the US are a lot bigger than anywhere else. Ask those questions. Make sure that they are FDA certified labs, because they're going to be probably the best nutrition that you can put into your body. And also make sure that you have carbon bonded nutrients because they're the ones that have been proven already to be able to be absorbed by the body in the quickest possible way. And lastly, I would say make sure that you get the purest water that you can drink. Hydration has become one of the biggest issues where we need to hydrate our bodies in the best possible way. So make sure you have the purest water that you can have. If you don't have a filter in your house, make sure that you buy bottled water and get the best possible bottled water that you can find. So those are the things that I will look for anytime that I go into a grocery store.
So you talked about bottled water. So give me some ideas about the differences between bottled waters. Some people say bottled waters are all the same. And some people say, no, there's, good bottled water and not good bottled water. So can you help us consumers understand the difference between the bottled waters and which ones might be better and why?
Well, it's interesting because we have to understand that there's no water that is the same. So the biggest challenge that I find when you buy a bottled water is the plastic, because we realize that we have an overwhelmed exposure to plasticity, where now they're showing that we have plastic in our brain, and that's one of the biggest causes of dementia and Alzheimer. We have plastic in our gut, and that's one of the biggest reason why uh, our gut system is not working as well as it can. So I would say if you can buy a bottle that is glass, that comes in a glass, that would be the number one option.
Okay.
Then secondarily, look for the purification methods within the waters. If you try to find the cheapest water, trust me, you're going to get the worst kind of water that you can put into your body. So I look for why is that one water can be more expensive than another. So I look at the cost of it. And then I start reading and seeing the process of that. And then I find out why is it more costly. It's because it's being processed better, it's being purified better. And then the third thing is be careful with gimmicks like this is vitamin water or this is this, because the reality of it, a lot of times, is not what you think it is. So make sure that you ask questions, do your research, and if you don't know where to go, ask the people that you trust, go to your holistic provider and say, listen, what are the best waters that I can drink? I personally have always had water systems in my house, and for years, for over 35 years, I drank reverse osmosis water. Why? Because I've always was told it's the best water that I can put into my body. Now I moved into reverse osmosis plus hydrogen water. Why? Because hydrogen has over 2,200 studies that have proven that if you can take a water that is purified and you have hydrogen component to it, it can actually stimulate and reduce inflammation and reduce oxidative stress into your system. So those are the reasons that's where I drink right now. So to me, those will be the type of waters that you want to find, and try to just buy a filter system. You can buy inexpensive systems that are over the counter, or if you want to put a system that goes through the whole house, even better.
So one question that amazes me that I still receive, and it's kind of on a regular basis, is tell me just a little bit about what goes on in the tap. Because for years, we were I was brought up and I was raised on tap water.
Yeah.
And tap water, especially in certain parts of the country, were deemed acceptable.
Right.
They had acceptable levels of certain things in it. What's happened? What's changed? Why can't I just go to the tap anymore and drink tap water?
That's a great question. Tap water, unfortunately, is not healthy as one time it was. And it's because commercialization in which we're dumping so much toxicity into our reservoirs. So right now, there's studies that have shown that there's over 200 toxicity challenges in our water, including excess pharmaceuticals, where people throw their pharmaceuticals, flush it down the toilet, and guess where it ends up? In your tap water. Then you have all the plasticity, because you have all the water bottles that are being discarded into our our water reservoirs. That's another problem. Then you think about all the toxicity that people are dumping into the water based on the companies that are throwing away into their systems, right? Their pipes, all of that gets put into that. Okay. So to me, the last thing that I would do is to drink tap water. My body is so pure right now because for over 38 years, I have not drinking tap water, that if I was to drink tap water, I would get actually physically sick because my body will feel all of that toxicity into my system. And the number one thing to understand is that our bodies are full of toxicity. We need to find alternative ways to detoxify our body. And one of the best ways to do it is by simply getting the purest purified water that you can put into your system and flush them out.
People generally, there's a misnomer around capsules, tablets, and liquids when it comes to supplementation.
Yeah.
And people used to think that,
It's the same.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to understand, or people are becoming more educated as to why we don't want to have tablets, and capsules are certainly a little bit better, but why is liquid so much better for us to take over a long period of time?
And the best way that you can do is through your own analysis and research. Just share. I remember, growing up,
Yes.
Yeah. tablets and capsules. Well, it started with tablets, then it went into veggie capsules, and now liquid is dominating.
And then gel caps came around.
Yeah.
And where does that fit in?
I know.
And so I just think that there's just a plethora of, there's a lot of people that are confused.
Yeah.
What do I do? This
Yeah.
is a tablet, this is a chewable, this is a sublingual, this is a blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So we could talk about it.
The new science has shown that inflammation is the foundation for most chronic illnesses, whether it is heart disease, obesity, arthritis, chronic pain. What have you found to be the possible solution of how to reduce inflammation naturally?
So the inflammatory process, that's a challenging processes that takes place in our bodies, especially as we age. It is one of the more challenging problems because as we age, our hormone levels are changing. And as we're aging, we're oxidizing. And as we're changing, our diets aren't necessarily as good as what they should be or what they could be. So it's this combination. It's almost like the inflammatory process is this combination like the perfect storm. The body can only utilize so much nutrition at once. And we know that nutrition is a key component in fighting the inflammatory process. The real question then becomes, what kind of nutrition is the most helpful? Because we know the inflammatory process exists. We know we can stop it. But what we want to do, what we want to understand is not just to prevent it. We want to take steps so that we know that the foods that we're putting into our body aren't just going to feed the problem again. The inflammatory process begins every time we literally do anything from exercise to drink liquids, whether it's teas and coffees and drink sugar-based products and consume things that are unfortunately loaded with synthetics and synthetic nutrients. So one of the key components of key things that we have found to help slow the inflammatory process is taking supplementation that is bound to something called carbon. The supplementation that's bound to carbon, we have found to be the most readily absorbable supplementation on the planet. It's also highly anti-inflammatory. As we age, the inflammation process grows and continues. We have arthritic conditions. We are slowing down. It's difficult to exercise because we are inflamed or we have an inflammatory process. Some of it's chronic, some of it's acute. Sometimes we just exercise too quick, too much, too fast, and we have an acute flare. Sometimes we just find that cold months in the winter create difficult challenges for us through the entire cold month period. But what we have found on a consistent basis is that carbon bond technology is a very unique way to create and induce supplementation into the body. The body can now see the supplementation in a very different way. Carbon is what we're made up of. So when a supplement is bound to carbon, the body sees it as a very near perfect tissue match. That near perfect tissue match is very beneficial. Why? Because the body has an entirely different means and mechanism for absorption. Now we can utilize the nutrient or the nutritional value of that supplement at an incredibly high rate. The body can utilize it, sometimes in some cases in under 20 seconds. And now the body, once utilizing this incredible, all the minerals and the nutrients, that starts the anti-inflammatory processes. So now the body has sort of the antidote to inflammation. So now it's not just curative, but it's preventative. So now as we're ingesting the nutrients and as we're ingesting nutrients bound to carbon, the body has the ability to prevent the inflammatory process, which is the ideal way to go about it. It isn't just we've just done 3 hours of exercise and we're inflamed. We now have the way to prevent the inflammatory process, which is just as important, if not greater than everything else.
So we now know that the key to inflammation is to actually to have a carbon-bonded nutrient that we can absorb in our bodies. So that way, not only does it absorb it quickly, but effectively.
So one of the things that's really big right now is getting into the gym, but not just getting into the gym, but people are deciding that fasting and working out has some capacity for either detoxification and or healing. It's something that I've heard more and more about, but I think it's caused a lot of confusion. So what do you think about that?
Well, during the pandemic, the New England Journal of Medicine released a study that showed that intermittent fasting was probably the best thing you can do for anti-aging, for you reducing any excess weight, for mental balance. And I read that and I started intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is very simple. It's when it doesn't tell you what to eat, it tells you when to eat. So you eat within a period of 16 hours of fasting, and you eat all your meals within 8 hours. That's a 24-hour cycle. I do 22 hours of fasting because I only have one meal a day. And that's really what studies have shown is the maximum effect of intermittent fasting. Now, you can just fast. The fasting component of life has been around for centuries. That means that when you take a day to just not eat and just drink water, it forces your body to function at a higher level because most of our energy of our body is utilized to digest all these preservatives and all this toxicity and all the things that we're putting in our body that has no nutrients. So our body is working so hard to try to get that through, which we end up eliminating, right? In some cases, other cases is stored in the body. And that's what's causing not only the excess weight, but that's just causing the lack of energy that most people are complaining about.
So would you say that fasting is a key component to your everyday life? And how often do you recommend that we fast?
To me, intermittent fasting is a fountain of youth. It's really what I love for the last almost 7 years that I've been doing it. And it keeps my body not only looking well, but also feeling the best that I've ever felt.
So tell us, what do you do just before you fast? Do you indulge and hope that that's going to create sustenance for the next 24 hours? Or do you have your everyday, you have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner? Or are you not a breakfast guy? Because there's some confusion out there about breakfast. And some people are saying that it's actually not as beneficial to eat breakfast as it is to have lunch and dinner.
Right.
So share with me just a little bit about what you do before you fast. And number two, how do you come out of your fast?
Well, the important thing to do is not to overindulge. There's some metabolic programs out there that tell you that you want to go crazy, before you go into a fasting regimen because it gets the body to a certain level. For me, what I have found to be the most effective is to be able to just have one meal a day and make sure that that meal is actually a nutritious meal in my body. What I noticed when I first started is that if I'm going to have a meal a day, I would overindulge because you can eat anything you want.
Yep.
But what I realized is that when you start putting into your body, because our cells are adaptive cells, we adapt to whatever we put into our body. So if we put good food into our body's going to crave the good food. If we put bad food into our body's going to crave the bad food. And that's the cycle that people are really struggling with. They get into a new diet, and all of a sudden, 2 or 3 days later, they start craving the things that they've been eating for the last 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. So they don't last in that diet. It takes a discipline. So you have to, according to the research, you have to be able to change your nutrition at least 21 days consistently before your body begins to crave that new nutrition into your body. So be patient, be disciplined, and more importantly, be consistent, because that's what makes the difference.
So it's like a two-part thing, right? So number one is that when I say two parts, I mean, it not only can be taken during your fast. And it's not break. Right. So people have always said, well, then I broke my fast, right? No. You're receiving nutrition at such a molecularly low necessity level that the body doesn't see it as breaking your fast. It's just providing like pre-digested food into the body so that you can sustain your fast. That's number two. And number three is that people who are fasting regularly can maintain the intraMAX, and I would use the unsweet version. And number three, you can come out of your fast with intraMAX unsweet in combination of intraMIN as a very powerful tool for the recovery process after you fast.
One of my greatest secrets to maintain intermittent fasting is using intraMAX and intraMIN. intraMAX, especially the sugar-free, maintains my level of fasting throughout those 22 hours that I do. And then when I have my meal, because remember, the whole thing in intermittent fasting is to keep your insulin level low. What I do is usually after I finish the fasting, I go and do intraMIN, which allows me to reactivate some of the intraMAX, and that's how I keep myself fasting for 22 hours.
So something that I think is also in addition to what Fab was just saying is that the question then arises is it okay to have intraMAX and or intraMIN during my fast?
Yeah.
And I just want to clarify, I think it's important for us to understand how critical it is to maintain a certain nutraceutical or nutritional value level so that you have enough sustenance to get through your day.
Right, especially to reduce, because the biggest complaint in intermittent fasting seems to be I get headaches, sometimes I feel lack of energy.
Nausea, lightheadedness.
Yeah, so you can talk
fatigue.
about, that it's important to understand as you're intermittent fasting, intraMAX and intraMIN are designed to help you sustain that and alleviate any of the side effects that people that don't use it complain about.
Fab, I mean, it's something that is so common where people are understanding the value of intermittent fasting, and yet there's a misnomer. There's confusion about how to do it. And do I just drink water? Can I have supplementation during the day? Will it affect my fasting positively or negatively? And if so, I know a lot of people get depleted and they feel pretty bad about the 7th, 8th, 9th hour. There's blood sugar issues. There is energy, there's lack of energy. And I think just overall, what's your thought on how to maintain your body during your 22 hours? How do you do it?
Well, the main thing that I look for is maintaining my insulin level low and watching what I eat. So we know that in intermittent fasting, we got to have at least less than 50 calories per day during that 22-hour period. The other one is to make sure that we avoid the things that are going to spike that insulin level so that our body has an opportunity to repair itself during that 22-hour period or 16-hour period, or if you do a full day,
yes,
that's fine too. So to me, the most important thing is to ensure that my body is not being punished. Just because I want to fast because of the benefits of intermittent fasting, it's not being punished because I am feeding it the nutrients that it needs through intraMAX and intraMIN. And that's what keeps my body feeling vibrant, energetic, all throughout the process of intermittent fasting without breaking the fast.
It's fantastic. And in addition, I think it's important for people to realize that it's challenging to come back once your body has crashed. And sometimes we think that we can push through and we can go the 22 hours. But what I'm hearing you say is that with a regimen of intraMAX and intraMIN, the body will not just maintain itself, but energetically, the body now has the ability to sustain itself through an extended period of time and still reap 100% of the benefit of the fast. So you had mentioned 50 calories. Is it the calories that people need to avoid? Because water has no calories, but water in a sense is very good for hydration, but doesn't do a lot for nutrition.
Right.
Doesn't give you energy. While water is critical to keep you alive, but doesn't necessarily sustain you. So tell me how you feel and how many times a day you would take intraMAX and intraMIN during your fast to sustain yourself.
Well, the most important thing is to understand that intraMAX has over 450 minerals and ingredients that are feeding my cells and my energy levels to be at the highest optimum. intraMIN is actually bringing all the minerals that are deficient in my body that can allow my cells to function even better than if they don't have that. So I do intraMAX and intraMIN at the beginning of the morning, and that helps me go through until 3 or 4 or 5 in the afternoon, where I do have my one meal, and then I go to bed at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and that's how my body actually, and I sleep 8 to 10 hours. And that's really how my body works.
So you're taking intraMAX and intraMIN basically once before,
As soon as I wake up.
as soon as you wake up. And then what about the next day? How do you feel? Do you feel, some people explain that they feel depleted and they've had, they know that they've missed a couple of meals. Their body is feeling the effect of that. How do you feel the next day?
I have never felt the next day with lack of energy. In fact, I wake up almost jumping out of my bed, because when your body goes into intermittent fasting, then it's actually repairing itself. Your brain is repairing itself, your gut is repairing itself, my heart is repairing itself. So it's actually helping my body heal. And then I'm able to have a deep night's sleep because I don't have to deal with all that food that people are eating, especially at night, right before they go to bed, where your body has to spend their whole night trying to process that food that is not organic, that is full of preservatives, is full of toxicities that your body has to filter through. And intermittent fasting allows me not to have any of that. Well, Dr. Drucker, I've always wanted to ask you that when we were in school and we take an X-ray, we see that all these tablets are sitting in the stomach and people are not even processing it. The body cannot process it, and they're sitting there. And I see so many people today taking tablets, taking capsules. And what is your opinion in your 30 years of evolution in this space? What have you found to be the most effective? A tablet, a capsule, or even the liquid that is now become so popular out there?
Great question. One that we do need to pay attention to, because there's a lot of choices on the market today. Certainly, we have seen a lot of tablets. Unfortunately, it's the cheapest thing to be manufactured, right? When you can crunch hundreds of things or dozens of things into a tablet, you can put potentially into one tablet what might go into 4 capsules.
Yeah.
And the reason is because they use so much pressure, the equipment and the manufacturing equipment, and they basically crush things together. That's how tablets are created. And then what they do is they fill the tablets with excipients, coatings, flow agents, binders, and those things are holding all the material together in the tablet. So then when you get a patient that comes in and there's an X-ray and you see the tablet, half the tablet is still sitting in there 3 days later, it's because it's very challenging for your body to break down tablets. We know that. It is the hardest thing to break down a tablet. It requires time, it requires a lot of energy for your body, and acids have to be present. There's digestive enzymes and things that we can take to help alleviate some of that, but it's a challenging thing for the body to break down a tablet. Now, the next thing would be, well, what about a capsule? So capsules are actually better because the capsule doesn't have as many excipients, flow agents, coatings, and binders, and the nutrients aren't being crushed together as hard. So now the body doesn't have to work so hard to get through into the capsule. The capsule is usually made of gelatin or some vegan form of encapsulation, but the nutrition inside the encapsulation is really the most important part, and it's a little bit easier for your body to get to. Now, the most important thing to understand is what's the best approach. The best approach would be liquid. The liquid is the highest and probably the most expensive thing to manufacture. It is the most challenging thing to manufacture because liquids require an enormous amount of processing. It's when things are in powder form and you can put them into a capsule, it's sort of a neat functional way to manufacture. When things are in a liquid state, it's a more expensive, and you have big vats, and they have to be massive vats held with lots of liquid. But the point is that liquids are easiest for your body to absorb. They are the easiest to assimilate. When something's in a liquid form, the body utilizes it instantaneously. It doesn't have to break through a capsule, doesn't have to convert the powder into something absorbable. It's already sort of, in a sense, pre-digested, and the body can have a maximum ability to utilize things that are in liquids.
So in your opinion, what would be the hierarchy of, if you had to choose what delivery mechanism you're going to choose in your nutrients, what would you choose as the best?
So you're asking, would I choose a tablet, capsule, or liquid?
Yes.
I would choose least would be a tablet. Tablets are loaded with excipients, flow agents, coatings, binders, and things that I really don't want in my body whatsoever. It takes my body forever to break down and digest it. And literally 3 days later, it could still be sitting in my body in some whole or partial part. The second thing that I would do would be a capsule. Capsules are powders, and they have little to no excipients, flow agents, coatings, and binders. And so I like that. And yet, you know, capsules can be a little challenging to swallow for some people. There are larger and smaller and different size capsules. So they're limited as well, but certainly better than a tablet. My first choice and my favorite thing to do would be to take a liquid. Liquids are already, in a sense, pre-digested. They have the nutritional values. They have factors and cofactors, enzymes and coenzymes in them. And it's much easier for my body to break them down. And I can utilize a liquid in record time. So not all liquids are created alike, but my first choice would be liquids.
So in your experience, when you see a liquid that is full of nutrients, what are the things that you definitely don't want in your liquid?
You don't want in liquid. Okay, well, number one would be that I would look for a chemical preservative. It's interesting, chemical preservatives are not in all liquids, yet the ones that have the chemical preservative, you'd have to look in the little section at the bottom of the label where it says other ingredients. Sometimes it's hidden, usually it's hidden there in that paragraph. There's small amounts of flavors and colors and different things like that. So I would avoid artificial colors, I would avoid artificial flavors, and I certainly, absolutely do not like or approve of anything with any kind of chemical preservative in it, such as potassium sorbate and sodium benzoate. Those are the things that I would avoid.